I can guarantee that Australia enters this crisis much better prepared. We currently have 36 days of petrol supply on hand, 29 days of jet fuel and 32 days of diesel. Now, the Leader of the Opposition was asked in 2020 when he held my position,
yes,
what's the minimum level?
I will take this point of order. The Minister will resume his seat. The Minister was not asked anything about the opposition. Resume your seat. I will now hear the point of order from the manager.
Thanks, Speaker. It goes to direct relevance. The question was very straightforward. Can you guarantee Australia will not run out of fuel?
Resume your seat. So the Minister, I do not want him talking about the opposition. He's going to have to talk about the question that he was asked.
Indeed, Mr Speaker. I'm simply pointing out what previous ministers said would guarantee supply, because the then Minister for Energy was asked.
Order.
If I could, Mr Speaker.
No.
And he said 24 days.
Order. No, the manager, I will deal with this.
I'll move on.
Yes, to assist the House. Resume.
I'll move
order.
on, Mr Speaker.
Order. We'll do this in a reasonable way. I've directed the Minister to return to the question, and he shall do so. Otherwise, we will move on to the next question.
I'll simply say, Mr Speaker, we enter this crisis with 36 days' worth of petrol, which is more than previous ministers said was necessary in a worst-case scenario. I might return to that later.
Order.
Mr Speaker, now, as the Prime Minister said,
the member for Cowper.
We deal with a situation currently where our fuel supplies continue to arrive, our fuel stocks continue to be strong, and any responsible member of this House, when we're dealing with a doubling of demand, would say that to the Australian people, that because we have strong supplies and because we have—
Minister will pause. Member for Cowper is on a warning. He will leave under 94A. I want the House to hear this information. The Minister is providing information to the House on an important issue, so I'm asking for—
Good day and welcome back to Australia's TakeOver, the channel that asks the questions Canberra desperately hopes you forget to ask. Today we are talking about petrol, panic, and a government that had 4 years to bulletproof this country's fuel supply and apparently spent that time doing absolutely everything else. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell right now, because this is exactly the kind of story the mainstream won't tell you straight. Right, let us set the scene. Iran and the United States are at war. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow strip of ocean that carries roughly 20% of the world's entire oil supply, has been effectively shut down by Iran's military. Oil prices have spiked to nearly $120 a barrel, and Australia, a country that exports extraordinary amounts of energy to the rest of the world, is sitting here with 32 days of diesel and 36 days of petrol, nervously watching the clock tick down like it's a game show nobody asked to be on. Here is the part that will make your blood boil. This is not a surprise, none of it. Labour has now been in government for 4 years. That is more than enough time to recognise the danger and begin repairing the damage. Yet very little has changed. There has been no serious rebuilding of refining capacity and no decisive effort to dramatically expand Australia's sovereign fuel reserves. 4 years, 4 budgets, 4 years of press conferences and ministerial photo opportunities, and we still cannot fuel ourselves through a crisis. Meanwhile, out in regional Australia, this is not abstract policy, it is a $20 cap at the servo. One New England service station owner limited purchases to just $20 of petrol per customer, barely enough to reach the closest town. He enforced the limit to ensure there was enough left over for emergencies. $20, mate. That is not a fuel policy. That is a rationing cue from a war film. And where was Energy Minister Chris Bowen through all of this? Standing at a podium telling you to calm down. Bowen told reporters that Australia's fuel supply is secure and urged motorists against panic buying, saying diesel and petrol supplies remain, at this point, secure. At this point. At this point. That is the political equivalent of saying the Titanic is fine at this point, while quietly checking the lifeboats. Now, let us talk about what Bowen is responsible for, because this is where it gets genuinely extraordinary. Australia's reserves stand at just 36 days for petrol, 34 for diesel, and 32 for jet fuel, significantly below the International Energy Agency's standard of 90 days net import coverage. 90 days is the international benchmark. We have 32. We are not even in the same postcode as prepared. And Bowen's own admission that the counted reserves include fuel already on ships heading toward Australia raises some very uncomfortable questions about what secure actually means when a hostile navy is blockading the sea lanes. Here is the analogy you need. Imagine you are told to keep 3 months of groceries in the house in case of emergencies. You keep 3 weeks, a disaster hits, and then you go on television and tell everyone there is no reason to panic. That is Chris Bowen. That is the man in charge of Australia's energy security. Experts have been calling for transparent reporting of usable onshore fuel stocks, expanded multi-fuel storage capacity, and regional fuel security partnerships with countries like New Zealand, Vietnam, and Malaysia. Senior analysts warned as far back as 2019 that Australia's stockpile was far from adequate and noted with devastating understatement that the issue persists today. 7 years of warnings, one minister who apparently filed them all in the bin. And what has the government actually done in response to this crisis? It released an extra 800 million litres from domestic reserves and relaxed fuel quality standards, allowing dirtier fuel marked for export to be redirected into the local market, injecting roughly 2 extra days of national supply. 2 days. They bought us 2 days. Break out the bunting. Australia is one of the most resource-rich nations on the planet. We dig up coal, we export gas, we pump iron ore. We are an energy powerhouse to everyone except ourselves. As the Maritime Union put it bluntly, it is indefensible that Australia cannot guarantee its own fuel supply. Indefensible. That word was chosen carefully, and it fits. Chris Bowen had 4 years. He had the warnings, he had the budget, and he had the responsibility. Regional Australians are now lining up at petrol stations with $20 in hand, while he assures the nation from a very comfortable podium that everything is fine. It is not fine. It has not been fine for a very long time. Thanks so much for watching. Australia's Takeover appreciates every one of you.